I didn't ask for the goddamn fucking bullshit. Fucking bullshit on.
Gather round, pet lovers. This is a sight for sore eyes. This black and white feline just stepped out of a glowing cube with a 40-ounce bottle of, wait for it, root beer. And who's the lucky drinking buddy? A peachy young lab, of course. Watch as they share a sip and a moment, proving that friendship knows no bounds. Cheers to epic pet duos. Hit like if you're smiling.
Jackie Cat, a bloody, hilarious odyssey, from the moment Jackie appears, naked and confused, to the thrilling setup for the bank robbery. Here's the full story you've shared so far, in chronological order. The Ballad of Jackie Cat, a bloody, hilarious odyssey. The air in the grimy alleyway shimmered, not with magic, but with the lingering scent of desperation and forgotten dreams. From a dissolving, glowing cube, which vanished with a faint pop like a particularly aggressive bubble wrap, emerged Jackie, a Catman hybrid who was clearly having a bad day. He stood upright, all sleek tabby fur and powerful, digitigrade legs, yet the first thing he noticed was the utterly scandalous lack of fabric around his nether regions. "Pants," he declared, his voice a surprisingly deep, gravelly purr that seemed to vibrate the very filth off the brick walls. "And a drink. A good, strong, brain-numbing drink." His memories were a complete blank, a digital void where his past should have been. No recollection of glowing cubes, time travel, or how he ended up naked and bewildered in an alley that smelled like regret. His mind screamed, "Where am I? Delujo am I? And for the love of all that is holy, why no pants?" The sudden, jarring reality of his existence was less a revelation and more a comedic existential crisis. He stumbled forward, a gait that was a bizarre hybrid of feline grace and a newly acquired human-like awkwardness, his paws turned feet hitting the damp pavement with a soft slap. Around a dumpster that looked like it had seen too many dumpster dives, he found salvation, or at least, clothing. A slumped figure, a homeless person, or bum, as Jackie's rapidly evolving mind helpfully supplied, was draped in what appeared to be perfectly good, if slightly aromatic, overalls. And a glistening beacon of hope, a 40-ounce bottle of Old English beer, clutched loosely in one hand. Jackie's eyes, a brilliant emerald green, widened with something akin to reverence. With the delicate precision of a surgeon and the moral compass of a raccoon, Jackie knelt. He began to peel the overalls off the unconscious man, muttering to himself, "Necessity, my friend. It's the mother of invention, and apparently, also of grand larceny." The fabric resisted, clinging to the man's substantial form like a second skin. Jackie tugged harder, grunting, "Come on, now, just a little less, you in these." It was as the second shoe, a battered canvas monstrosity, finally slid off with a squelch, that the bum stirred. His eyes, two bloodshot pinpricks of confusion, snapped open. My, where are my pants?" he bellowed, a sound like a rusty foghorn. He lunged upward, surprisingly agile for someone who had clearly spent the last few hours communing with the pavement. Jackie, however, was faster. With a blur of motion that would make a ninja weep with envy, he launched himself. This wasn't just a kick. This was a Jackie Chan move infused with the pent-up frustration of a cat who had just materialized out of thin air and found himself pantsless. His foot, clad in a newly acquired, and slightly too large, sock, connected with the bum's face with a sickening, wet crack. It wasn't just a KO, it was a detonation. The man's nose flattened with an audible crunch, and a sickening spray of crimson mist erupted, decorating the dumpster like a particularly gruesome abstract painting. One of his bloodshot eyeballs actually popped out of its socket, dangling by a nerve as the man executed an involuntary, gurgling backflip. He landed with a wet thud, his face a pulpy mess of broken cartilage and bone, gurgling his last, pants-less thoughts. Jackie, ever the nice guy, had technically avoided using his claws, but the sheer kinetic force had turned the man's face into a modern art masterpiece of gore. Well, Jackie mused, surveying the immediate aftermath with a detached, professional air. That escalated quickly, and messily. He calmly picked up the 40-ounce bottle, giving it a gentle swirl. "Least I got the loot." He took a long, satisfying swig, the cheap malt liquor burning a trail down his throat, and began to make his way down the street, the oversized overalls flapping comically around his furry ankles. He turned a corner, still trying to piece together the fragmented echoes of a past that refused to materialize. Time travel, he mumbled, seems like a lot of work for a thirst this profound. Then, a beacon of hope, a shimmering mirage in the urban desert. Neon lights, aggressively bright, assaulted his eyes with a glorious promise: beer, 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 and liquor. The words glowed like a celestial invitation, illuminating a path to sweet, sweet oblivion. A surge of pure, unadulterated recognition jolted through Jackie. Whatever existential crisis he was enduring, whatever grand, time-traveling mission he might have, one truth was undeniable: he knew what he liked. And he liked this. With a newfound swagger, he marched towards the glowing entrance. But his pilgrimage was interrupted by a monolithic figure blocking the doorway. A bouncer, built like a brick outhouse and wearing a truly intimidating pair of black sunglasses, stood guard. "Hold it right there, furball," the bouncer rumbled, his voice a low growl. "We don't take your kind in here. No kiddies allowed." Jackie Cat didn't dignify the remark with a vocal response. He simply tilted his head, his emerald eyes narrowed behind the new sunglasses. The bouncer, clearly underestimating the sartorially challenged bipedal feline, leaned in, sneering. "Did you hear me, fuzzball? Scram before I kick you back to the pound." That was his mistake. With a sudden, explosive burst of power, Jackie launched himself. This wasn't a kick. This was a thunderous uppercut, delivered with the precision of a master craftsman and the raw power of a runaway train. His paw-turned fist connected with the bouncer's jaw with the force of a small meteorite. The impact was deafening, a wet crunch that vibrated through the very pavement.
Fuck that means.
The bouncer's head snapped back, a sickening, impossible angle, as his entire massive body lifted off the ground, performing an involuntary backflip. And then the deluge. A fountain of thick, viscous blood erupted from his nose, painting a grotesque, crimson rainbow against the neon sign. His eyeballs, unable to withstand the pressure, bulged grotesquely for a second before bursting like overripe grapes, spraying gore and vitreous humor in a wide, nauseating arc. He landed flat on his back with a seismic thud, his limbs splayed at unnatural angles, a rapidly congealing puddle of himself. As the bouncer's sunglasses, caught in the chaos, flew into the air, Jackie Cat, with casual grace, snatched them mid-descent. He adjusted them on his own head, the dark lenses perfectly obscuring his keen, evaluating gaze. He then stepped over the pulped, twitching form of the bouncer, the 40-ounce bottle still clutched in his paw, and strolled into the bar. Scene 3. A drink, a revelation, and a friend. Jackie Cat, still in his somewhat ridiculous, ill-fitting overalls, finally settled onto the worn barstool. His tail, a sleek, twitching appendage, occasionally brushed against the sticky surface, a silent testament to his feline nature. The 40-ounce bottle sat beside him, a monument to his recent criminal escapades. Despite the immediate gratification of pants and booze, a persistent hum of confusion vibrated behind his emerald eyes. Where the heck did I come from? And what in the unholy underworld am I even supposed to be doing? The feeling was tantalizingly familiar, like a half-remembered dream, just out of reach in the misty recesses of his ancient, evolving brain. He knew there was a reason for all this, a grand purpose, but it felt like a cosmic punchline he hadn't quite grasped yet. The bartender, a scrawny dude with a greasy ponytail and a face that looked like it had lost a fight with a cheese grater, finally approached, wiping down the bar with a rag that probably hadn't seen soap since the Clinton administration. He looked at Jackie, then at the still steaming puddle where the bouncer used to be, and a scowl twisted his already unpleasant features. "Listen here, you mangy piece of garbage," the bartender snarled, his voice dripping with condescension. "We don't serve your kind in here.
Fuck
Get
you,
your furry
racist.
backside out before I bounce your butt clear to next Tuesday." He paused, a smug look on his face, clearly expecting the small, bipedal cat to cower. But before Jackie could even let out a warning growl, or decide whether he even remembered how to form coherent English words, a rich, melodic voice cut through the tension. "Yo, what the bloody hell you harassing that man for, eh?" Jackie swiveled his head, his ears twitching under the sunglasses. Behind him stood a man, probably in his mid-30s, with kind, warm eyes, a neatly trimmed beard, and dreadlocks pulled back from a friendly face. He had the unmistakable calm demeanor of an older Jamaican man. "Give the guy a drink," the Jamaican said, his voice firm but good-natured. It's on me. Jackie Cat blinked, his focus shifting from the glowering bartender to this unexpected ally. A slow, almost imperceptible purr rumbled in his chest. Thanks, man, he said, the words slipping out without conscious thought. The moment he spoke, a profound realization washed over Jackie. He could talk. He could actually talk. Not just internal monologues and frustrated purrs, but full, articulate sentences. He paused, marveling at the simple, miraculous fact.
Pause.
This was a game changer. He was a time-traveling, bipedal, pants-less, violently efficient talking cat. This changes everything. Meanwhile, to the utter bafflement of Jackie Cat, no one in the bar batted an eye. The handful of terrified patrons, the shocked bartender, they all just accepted it. A walking, talking cat was just another guy at the bar. Apparently, in this dimension, he was just as unremarkable as the rest of the weary, boozy clientele. It was a bizarre realization, both liberating and mildly insulting. The bartender, still grumbling under his breath about freaks and animals, grudgingly poured a drink. Coming right up, Kitty, he sneered, clearly not grasping the severity of his previous errors in judgment. He slammed down a glass filled with a dark, potent liquid, cut with crimson. Overproof Jamaican rum and cranberry. Your friend suggested it. Said it's good for your liver. Jackie took a cautious sniff, then a sip. His eyes widened. The potent rum warmed his throat, and the tart cranberry cut through the burn, leaving a surprisingly pleasant aftertaste. He turned to the bartender, a dangerous glint in his hidden eyes. This, he purred, a low, menacing sound, is a bloody good drink. And a good thing too, you arrogant little ass. You're lucky you didn't piss me off proper. With newfound purpose, and a slight buzz from the rum, Jackie Cat gracefully hopped down from his stool. He still didn't know his exact mission, but this friendly Jamaican man seemed like a good starting point. Perhaps he could provide some clues, some context for this absurd, violent, and surprisingly boozy existence. He made his way towards his new friend, a feline Sherlock Holmes on the hunt for answers. Scene 4. Smoke, revelations, and a glimpse of
every
purpose.
time he says pause,
Jackie Cat padded
I
toward the
laugh my
booth
ass
where the
off.
friendly Jamaican man sat, his steps surprisingly steady despite the influx of overproof rum. He reached the table, the oversized overalls a comical sight, and with a polite nod, said, "Thanks for the drink, man. Really appreciate it." The Jamaican man, whose name Jackie would soon learn was Marcus, smiled warmly. "No worries, Bretta. You look like you needed it. Come, sit. Join us." He gestured to the empty space beside him in the booth, where two other people, a stern-faced woman with a vibrant headwrap and a younger, nervous-looking man, eyed Jackie with a mixture of curiosity and slight unease. Jackie slid into the booth, the worn leather groaning under his weight. Marcus leaned in conspiratorially. "So, what's a feline like yourself doing out on a night like this, EH? And looking like you just stepped out of a time machine, perhaps?" He chuckled, oblivious to how close he was to the truth. Jackie blinked, the words echoing in his mind. "Time machine, that's it." He slapped his paw on the table, startling the nervous man. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing, or where I am, but I know it's not when I'm from. What year is this, anyway? Marcus raised an eyebrow, a knowing glint in his eye. "It's 1998, Bretta. Late 98. Why, you lost in time or something?" The year hit Jackie Cat like a bolt of lightning. 1998. Suddenly, flashes. Not full memories, but vivid, fragmented images. A sterile, gleaming facility. Vials bubbling with iridescent liquids. The cold, metallic scent of something artificial. A looming, digitized countdown. The word, a whisper in his mind, growing louder, more urgent. Extinction. He was from the far future, a future teetering on the brink. He was a long way from home, a very long way. And then, a jolt, like a surge of electricity through his very being. The mission! It was all flooding back, not in perfect detail, but in raw, primal urgency. He'd been sent back, an unlikely, anthropomorphic feline vanguard, to stop something, some catastrophic event that threatened to wipe humanity off the face of the earth. A cataclysm rooted in the past, something that had to be prevented now, in this primitive, late 90s era. He was here to stop the end of the freaking world. The world. Jackie mumbled, rubbing his temples, the effort of remembering making his head throb. It's all so hazy. I have to stop something. Something bad. Really, really bad. He looked at Marcus, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and sudden, dawning purpose. Marcus, sensing the cat's distress, patted his shoulder. Sounds like you got a heavy load, brother. Sometimes, a little something to calm the mind helps the memories flow. He looked at his companions, who nodded. How about we step outside for a smoke? Clear your head. Jackie, still reeling from the sudden download of apocalyptic destiny, nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, a smoke. Good idea. My brain feels like it just went through a meat grinder. He stumbled out of the booth, the overproof rum now adding a delightful, fuzzy layer to his existential crisis. The cool night air felt good on his fur, a stark contrast to the stuffy bar. Outside, under the hazy glow of a distant street lamp, Marcus pulled out a thick, hand-rolled cigarette. It wasn't tobacco. He lit it, took a deep drag, and then handed it to Jackie. Here, Bretta, take a puff. This'll help you relax. Gets the thoughts moving. Jackie took the joint, his enhanced senses immediately identifying the pungent aroma. It was earthy, sweet, and strangely familiar. This smells like cabinet, he mused, a phantom memory of some future substance tickling his nose. He had no idea what cabinet was, but the scent was oddly comforting. He watched Marcus, copied his technique, and took a deep, experimental inhale. The smoke scratched at his throat, but then a wave of profound calm washed over him. The sharp edges of his anxiety softened, his fragmented memories becoming a little less terrifying, a little more distant. He took another drag, and another. The rest of the night was a blur.
Holy fuck, how much more can a fucking day be good and bad? Alright, this is your neighborhood friendly Chris. Walking back from a bar. Good awesome Easter Sunday. You know, as a Christian who's a baptized Christian whose name's Christian. Yep, just walking home wasted from what used to be Sunny's. I forgot all the pizza that I had to eat at a neighbor's house. I mean, not a neighbor, my buddy down the street, good friend, one of the few I have left. And motherfucker, yeah, fucking drank my shot of fucking whiskey. Fucking dick, man. So this is me. I can't even barely walk. I can't even barely fucking walk right now. Like, I just kind of want to go, grab that one of those honey, cross buns. Fuck, I can't even think right now. Hot cross buns, yeah. Fucking not really good for sandwiches, but peanut butter and jam and margarine, awesome. So holy fuck, man, can somebody help me get home? I'm going right to bed. Alright, so
His throat, but then a wave of profound calm washed over him. The sharp edges of his anxiety softened, his fragmented memories becoming a little less terrifying, a little more distant. He took another drag, and another. The rest of the night was a blur. Laughter, more rum, the distant, distorted sounds of a reggae beat. Conversations with Marcus and his friends, their faces blurring into a comforting, accepting haze. Jackie felt surprisingly at ease, an evolved, time-traveling warrior cat getting absolutely blazed in 1998, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. It was utterly ridiculous, and for the first time since he'd materialized, he felt almost content. He woke with a start. Sunlight, impossibly bright, streamed through a window. He was in a bed, a soft, warm bed, tucked under a blanket. The sheets smelled clean, of laundry detergent and something else, a faint, lingering scent of patchouli and the familiar earthy aroma from last night. He sat up, the room spinning for a moment. This wasn't an alley. This wasn't a bar. This was a proper, cozy apartment. Where am I? He mumbled, his voice hoarse. A dull ache throbbed behind his eyes, a souvenir of the Jamaican rum and the peculiar cabinet smoke.
Ray nephew, baby.
Then, as he blinked, trying to clear the fog from his mind, a sharp, unbidden image flashed before his eyes. A sprawling, high-tech facility, illuminated by banks of flickering fluorescent lights. Giant vats bubbling with noxious, brightly colored chemicals. Data screens flashing warnings. A chilling, cold dread settled in his gut. The pieces, finally, began to click into place. The overwhelming sense of purpose, the flashes of dread, the feeling of the end of the world. He finally remembered. His purpose. His mission. Scene 5. Brotherhood, burdens, and a bitter awakening. The apartment was Marcus's, a cozy, somewhat cluttered space that instantly felt more welcoming than any alley or bar. The stern-faced woman from the booth was Maya, Marcus's older sister, who carried herself with a quiet strength and a gaze that seemed to see right through you. The nervous young man was Leon, Maya's son, still a bit shy but quick to offer Jackie a cup of what he called proper coffee. They took Jackie in without question, a motley crew accepting a talking cat as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "You got a place here for as long as you need, Bretta," Marcus had said that first morning, offering Jackie a clean towel. "Just gotta figure out what's going on with your head, EH." And they tried to help. Jackie spent his days with them, slowly piecing together the customs of 1998. He learned about rap music and dial-up internet, about the anxieties of Y2K and the simple pleasure of late-night TV. He learned to distinguish between different types of takeout. He also learned about the deep bond between Marcus, Maya, and Leon. They were family, not just by blood, but by circumstance, by shared struggle, and now, by their inexplicable acceptance of a pants-less, time-displaced feline. They saw past the absurdity to something raw and vulnerable in Jackie, and they treated him as one of their own, a lost soul who clearly needed help. But the memories of the facility, the chemicals, the world's impending doom, remained stubbornly out of reach, like a half-eaten bag of chips you can't quite get your paw on. The flashes came and went, tantalizing him with the urgency of his mission, only to dissipate like smoke. One afternoon, while Marcus was at work and Maya and Leon were out, Jackie, restless and haunted by his forgotten purpose, wandered out. He ended up a few blocks away, in a part of the neighborhood that felt colder, harsher. He met new faces there, people huddled in doorways, their eyes dulled, their movements sluggish. They offered him something different than Marcus's joints, something quicker, sharper. He started with small amounts, then more. The cabinet smell of the marijuana had been comforting, but these new substances offered a raw, immediate oblivion. They silenced the screaming questions in his mind, numbed the existential dread of a forgotten mission. The flashes of the future faded entirely, replaced by a hollow, temporary peace. He'd find himself stumbling back to the apartment late at night, his fur disheveled, his eyes glazed over, the shame a dull ache beneath the chemical haze. He was getting hooked. Marcus, Maya, and Leon noticed. The subtle changes at first, then the blatant ones. The way Jackie's usually vibrant fur looked dull, his keen eyes bloodshot, the tremors in his paws. The sudden bursts of irritability, followed by deep, self-loathing silence. The disappearing money from Maya's purse, though Jackie's own internal moral compass screamed at him for it, the cravings were louder. They didn't yell, they didn't throw him out, even though their own lives were a daily struggle. They simply looked at him with an immense sadness, a quiet determination. One morning, Maya found him curled up in the corner of his room, shaking, a tiny, crumpled baggie beside him. She knelt, her face etched with concern. "Jackie," she said softly, her voice uncharacteristically gentle. "This ain't you, Bretta. You're better than this. We gonna get you through this."
Yes, Bretta.
And they did. It was hell. Days bled into nights of cold sweats, tremors, and a raw, burning craving that felt like it would tear him apart. He thrashed, he cried, he cursed, sometimes in that gravelly catman voice, sometimes in a guttural growl that was pure feline anguish. Maya sat with him,
Jack,
a steady
get on the
presence,
table.
offering sips of water and
You're
whispering
some
words of
freaking
encouragement.
you fat fuck.
Marcus stayed up late, brewing herbal teas and telling him stories of his own struggles, showing Jackie he wasn't alone. Leon, despite his nervousness, would bring him comics, anything to distract him from the agony. Slowly, agonizingly, the fog began to lift. The tremors subsided. The intense, soul-consuming cravings dulled to a manageable ache. As the toxins drained from his system, a new clarity began to emerge, sharp and terrifying. The flashes of the facility returned, more vivid now. The bubbling chemicals, the flashing warning signs, the faces of his future comrades. The desperation in their eyes as they pushed him through the temporal gate. He remembered the names. He remembered the purpose. He remembered the specific, catastrophic event. One crisp morning, Jackie Cat woke up completely clean, the air tasting sweet and pure. He sat bolt upright in bed, his eyes snapping open, clear and bright. The haze was gone. The mission was not. He stood up, his limbs feeling lighter, his mind sharper than it had been since he materialized. He strode into the living room, where Marcus was brewing coffee, Maya was braiding Leon's hair, and the apartment was filled with the warm scent of home. "I remember," Jackie said, his voice firm, filled with a newfound steel. They all looked at him, their expressions a mixture of relief and anticipation. Everything. The future. The chemicals. The global catastrophe. And what I have to do. He looked at his friends, these three humans who had taken him in, nurtured him, pulled him back from the brink. They had saved him, so he could save everyone else. A deep, determined resolve settled in his heart. Scene 6. Guns, ganja, and grand larceny.
Yeah.
Jackie Cat, eyes blazing with newfound purpose, snatched a faded blue bandana from a nearby hook in Marcus's apartment. With surprisingly nimble paws, he wrapped it around his head and ears, knotting it tightly. Then, with a flourish that was both dramatic and deeply unsettling, he pulled the shattered lens sunglasses, the ones he'd taken from the bouncer whose head he'd so thoroughly rearranged, back onto his face. The effect was immediate, a menacing, determined feline, ready for mayhem. He looked at Marcus, Maya, and Leon, their faces a mixture of astonishment and dawning comprehension. "All right, brethren," Jackie declared, his voice gravelly, but now imbued with a serious, almost militaristic tone. "I need to rob a bank." The room went silent. Then, Marcus slowly exhaled a plume of smoke from his own joint. A bank, Bretta?" "Yeah," Jackie affirmed, pacing with an almost manic energy. "This isn't for fun, though it might be hella fun. It's about saving the world." He gestured vaguely, his paws emphasizing the incomprehensible. "Something about chemicals. Released. In the future. It all goes sideways, people. The whole damn planet gets screwed. I just remembered where I need to go next." He took a long, thoughtful drag from the joint Marcus had passed him, the familiar, cabinet scent calming his frantic thoughts, making the complex data stream in his mind just a little clearer. He washed it down with a swig of Kingkin beer, the cheap brew a bizarre but effective catalyst for his future brain. "Lawrence and Morningside," he murmured, his gaze distant, processing the flood of information. "Yeah, that BMO bank." A flicker of a memory, a phantom injustice, crossed his mind. "For some reason, I have a feeling those bastards rip people off. But whatever's in that deposit box, it's my next clue." He looked at his newfound comrades, a glint of desperation in his eyes. "Box number 917. For some reason, it feels like it has something to do with a keyboard." "Maybe a key." Marcus, Maya, and Leon exchanged glances. They'd spent a year with this talking cat, seen him at his lowest, helped him claw his way back. They didn't understand the specifics of time travel or apocalyptic chemicals, but they understood loyalty. And they understood being tired of getting ripped off. "Yo," Marcus said, a grin spreading across his face. "We've been struggling for a year, man. All those promises people break, all the money we don't got. Let's go make that money." Maya, though usually reserved, nodded grimly. "If it's for the world, then we do it." Even Leon, the nervous one, puffed out his chest a little. "We're gonna need guns," Marcus stated, cutting right to the chase. "Lots and lots of guns. This ain't no stick-up for pocket change."
Neo.
At the mention of guns, something sparked in the back of Jackie Cat's mind. A deep, instinctual knowledge. "Wait a sec," he thought, his ears flattening slightly. "I know guns. Why the hell haven't I seen one yet? I thought these guys were gangsters." Then, without another thought, Jackie clapped his paws together, flexing both his fingers, no, his digits, and tapped his hands together in a strange, precise rhythm. It was a gesture, a command, he hadn't known he remembered. With a blinding flash and a faint, high-pitched hum that made the apartment's cheap light fixtures flicker, another glowing cube materialized in the middle of the room. It was identical to the one Jackie himself had emerged from, shimmering with an otherworldly energy. Before Marcus, Maya, or Leon could even utter a coherent sound, the cube dissolved, spewing forth a cascade of sleek, futuristic weaponry. They weren't clunky, antiquated firearms. These were future guns, compact, ergonomic, with intricate glowing components and a silent, deadly aura. A rifle with no visible magazine, a pistol that seemed to hum with contained power, sleek energy emitters that looked like they belonged in a sci-fi blockbuster. Whoa, dude, Leon breathed, his jaw practically on the floor. Marcus and Maya just stared, their eyes wide and unblinking, their minds struggling to reconcile what they were seeing with their current state of altered consciousness. Were they still high? Had the rum taken a turn? Well, all right, Marcus finally managed, a slow, incredulous smile spreading across his face as he picked up one of the futuristic handguns. It felt impossibly light, yet perfectly balanced. Looks like we're really gonna make some money now, Greta. Or at least, save the world in style. And so, with a talking cat leading the charge, armed with futuristic weaponry, and fueled by a combination of desperate purpose, loyalty, and a whole lot of marijuana, the unlikely crew began to plan their bank robbery. The fate of the world, apparently, hung on a BMO safety deposit box at Lawrence and Morningside.
Me and this program
Scene
work
7.
well.
A very bad day for 3 unlucky strangers. It sounds like you're building a truly wild and engaging graphic novel story, Chris. Knowing your thoughts on people stressing you out and ripping you off, it's interesting to see how Jackie Cat, with his own history of being ripped off, first his pants, then his memories, is now leading a crew to make money and save the world. What happens next for Jackie and his crew as they get ready for this high-stakes bank robbery? Are they going to encounter more unexpected challenges?
Okay, alright. Alright, now, okay, alright. Now I gotta get the rest of it. Yes, Jackie Cat. You got your fresh food, you got your fresh water.
To The Ballad of Jackie Cat. Here are scenes 7, 8, 9, and 10. Scene 7. The alleys of Toronto run red. All right, Marcus declared, surveying the gleaming future guns scattered across his living room floor like dangerous alien toys. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this right. First things first, supplies. We need snacks, proper food for the long haul, and we gotta recruit a few more trustworthy souls to pull this off. He looked at Jackie. And you, Greta, need to chill that brain of yours so you can remember all the details. Everyone agreed. The guns, for now, stayed hidden. They were, after all, just a bunch of ups, as Jackie so eloquently put it, and their immediate priorities were skewed. Food could wait. Weed and liquor, however, were essential for operational clarity, or glorious oblivion. They started with the weed store. As they walked down a grimy side street, the late 90s Toronto air thick with exhaust fumes and the faint smell of hot garbage, they rounded a corner and immediately ran into trouble. 3 figures, their faces hard and unyielding, stood blocking the narrow alley. They muttered amongst themselves in a language Jackie couldn't discern, but the glares they shot at the crew were universal. Pure, unadulterated hostility. Jackie Cat, walking beside Marcus, felt a familiar heat building in his chest. His memory, though still foggy about his precise mission, was crystal clear on one thing. He hated being looked at like that. He hated disrespect. He kept his lips tight, struggling to contain the rage that simmered beneath his furry exterior. He was a time-traveling, world-saving feline, and these morons had no idea who they were dealing with. But Marcus, ever the protector of his newfound brethren, wasn't one to back down. He stepped forward, his voice calm but laced with steel. Yo! Who the, you looking at, each? You looking at me? Or you looking at my furry-ing friend? The 3 strangers mumbled something back, more aggressive glares, their expressions daring Marcus to push it further. That was it. Jackie Cat had reached his breaking point. The insults, the disrespect, the lingering memory of his own past struggles, all coalesced into a blinding fury. A primal, guttural scream ripped from his throat, a sound that could have been sampled directly from a Linkin Park song, raw and full of unbridled anguish and rage. He launched himself forward, a furry, bipedal blur of pure, unadulterated violence. For the first time since his arrival, his claws, sharp as razors and gleaming menacingly, extended from his paws. The first guy didn't even see it coming. Jackie's clawed hand raked across his face, a sickening shred that tore through flesh and muscle. With a grotesque pop, the man's eyeball was ripped clean from its socket, dangling by a single, thin nerve, blood gushing in a torrent down his face. Before the man could even scream, Jackie, with a terrifying, precise motion, slammed that still twitching eyeball into the second guy's ear with bone-shattering force. The impact was horrific, a sickening squelch and a wet crack that sent a spray of gray matter and dark, arterial blood erupting from the other side of the second man's head, out of his other ear. He dropped like a sack of broken bricks, his head a ruined, pulpy mess. Jackie didn't pause. Even as the first guy crumpled, gurgling around the gaping wound where his eye used to be, Jackie twisted in midair. His claws, now slick with gore, plunged deep into the third guy's skull, right through his temple. He didn't just stab him. He dragged him to the ground with savage force, the impact so brutal, so utterly disproportionate, that the man's head hit the concrete with a grotesque pop, sending a final, explosive spray of blood and brains across the alleyway. Marcus, Maya, and Leon stood frozen, splattered in crimson, their faces a mixture of shock and morbid awe. Around them, the few bystanders who had been out for a late-night stroll were paralyzed. Their cell phones, relics of a nascent digital age, remained firmly in their pockets. They were too stunned, too terrified to even think about filming. The raw, primal fear was palpable. They had just witnessed something beyond comprehension, a ferocious, anthropomorphic cat who had just massacred 3 men with terrifying efficiency, and they knew, instinctively, that if they moved wrong, they could be next to die. The alley was silent again, save for the faint drips of blood hitting the pavement. Jackie Cat stood amidst the carnage, chest heaving, his claws still extended, dripping with the fresh, steaming gore. The bandana was slightly askew, the sunglasses still perched, oddly pristine, on his furry face. He was no longer just a time-traveling oddity. He was a force of nature. And he was just getting started. Scene 8. Blood, banter, and bare butts. The alley reeked of copper and raw, visceral fear. The third guy, his head an unidentifiable crimson pulp where his face used to be, lay perfectly still, a grotesque, oozing masterpiece on the concrete. The entire crew, Jackie Cat, Marcus, Maya, and Leon, were absolutely drenched. Marcus's dreadlocks were matted with dark, glistening fluid. Maya's vibrant head wrap was plastered with glistening scarlet. Leon's usually pale face was a ghastly patchwork of red and white, and Jackie Cat, well, he looked like he just face-planted into a very enthusiastic abattoir. The street, moments before a bustling vein of late-night Toronto, was eerily quiet, the few onlookers frozen like terrified gargoyles, their mouths agape. Not a single soul dared to pull out a cell phone. The message was screamed by their primal fear. Film this, and you're next. Holy mother of... Leon gasped, staring down at his blood-soaked shirt, then back at Jackie, a faint tremor running through him. Marcus, despite the gore dripping from his chin, just stared at Jackie, a slow, incredulous smile spreading across his face. "Greta," he whispered, shaking his head in stunned admiration. "You really are. You are one kick-ass cat." The sheer, unadulterated absurdity of the situation, the utter ridiculousness of this tiny, furry dude unleashing such hilariously brutal fury, was enough to make Jim Carrey break in half. Maya, ever practical, cut through the stunned silence, a look of profound exasperation mixed with a hint of awe on her face. "Well, what the... are we gonna do now? We can't exactly walk into the weed store looking like we just swam through a goddamn abortion clinic."
Oh!
Her voice, usually calm, was now a strained shriek. Jackie Cat, still slightly buzzing from the rum and the joint, flexed his now retracted paws, a faint schlick of claws on bone still echoing in his mind. "New clothes," he stated, as if it were the most obvious thing in the universe. "Quick, before someone calls the damn fuzz and we have to explain why we're covered in enough viscera to open a butcher shop." With surprising speed, the crew darted to the next parallel street, ducking into another grimy alleyway between a convenience store and a pawn shop. They began stripping down, shedding their blood-soaked garments with grim determination, leaving behind a macabre pile of ruined fabric. As they peeled off the clinging, gore-soaked clothes, a bizarre, almost hysterical camaraderie began to form. "Damn, Jackie," Leon muttered, shivering slightly as he pulled off his shirt, revealing a surprisingly scrawny chest. "You really turned that dude's head into a goddamn piñata." Jackie chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. "What can I say? Some people just need a little head start in life. Or a head explosion, in his case." He paused, looking at the blood-spattered overalls. "Think these were worth it? They're still kinda baggy." Marcus laughed, a deep, booming sound that echoed in the narrow space. "Worth it? Bretta, you just proved you're the baddest. In Toronto. We're gonna get you some pants that fit, though. Can't be saving the world looking like a damn furry clown." He held up his own shirt, dripping with blood. "This shirt's officially retired. Might frame it, though. The day the cat went full berserker." Maya, surprisingly, joined in, though her smile was grim. "My good headwrap. At least it's a new kind of red. Goes with my eyes, right?" She nudged Marcus. "You think his other eye was still good? Or did Jackie get both in one go?" Jackie shrugged, flexing his paws. One was definitely out. The other one probably went pop when his brain decided to take a permanent vacation through his ear. Good for him, less thinking involved. He looked at the discarded bodies, now tiny in the distance. They were just asking for it, though. Who looks at a talking cat and thinks, "Yeah, I'll go ahead and be a..." to him? Only a proper idiot, Marcus agreed, pulling on a pair of cheap sweatpants from the convenience store. Or someone who just really needed a new ear hole. They quickly pulled on their newly purchased, ill-fitting sweats and cheap t-shirts, using the cramped, questionable convenience store bathroom to vigorously scrub the last of the blood from their faces and arms. The clerk, a tired man who had clearly seen every kind of weirdness on this street, didn't ask a single question, just nodded curtly. Emerging moments later, looking like a disheveled, hastily redressed street gang, the immediate crisis of being covered in human remains was averted. They were back on track. "All right," Marcus declared, wiping a final smudge of blood from his cheek. "First things first, weed store. It was only step 1 of 3 for the day. Get high, get drunk, get fed. And then, finally, they could make it back to the crib, where Jackie Cat could try to dredge up more of those crucial, world-saving memories. The BMO Bank, the safety deposit box 917, the glowing chemicals, the end of the world. It all waited. But first, they needed their supplies. And after that little alleyway incident, everyone understood that when Jackie Cat said he needed to think clearly, it involved a very specific, smoky clarity, and a level of chaotic violence previously thought impossible. Scene 9. Supplies, Scars, and Shared Sadness. The 4 friends, now clad in their slightly oversized, suspiciously pristine sweatpants and t-shirts, hit the streets again. The air still carried the faint, metallic tang of the recent alleyway incident, a reminder of the raw, violent transformation they'd just witnessed. They walked, a bizarre, motley crew, towards their first objective, the weed store. The place was a cramped, brightly lit den of aromatic delights. Jackie Cat, with his sunglasses and bandana, looked like a tiny, furry cartel boss. They stocked up on the finest chronic the late 99s had to offer, the pungent, earthy scent of the buds filling their nostrils. Next stop, the liquor store. This was Marcus's domain, and he navigated the aisles with the expertise of a seasoned connoisseur of cheap thrills. They emerged with an armload of 40 ounces, a few bottles of rum, and a couple of handles of something suspiciously clear and potent. The mood was already lifting, the buzz from the pregame joint starting to mesh with the anticipation of more. It was on their way to the grocery store, the final leg of their supply run, that trouble found them again. Not the organized, gang-related kind of trouble, but the casual, everyday ugliness of racist holes. 3 loudmouths, probably drunk, stumbled out of a dingy bar, their eyes immediately locking onto Marcus and Maya. "Look at this," one slurred, spitting on the pavement. "Got ourselves some jungle bunnies and, what the, is that? A rat with clothes on?" Marcus, ever the rock, kept his face impassive. Leon tensed, his hand instinctively going for his pocket, where he knew no gun resided. But Jackie Cat? His entire body vibrated with a low, menacing growl that only Maya, standing closest to him, could hear.
On our block.
His mind, still swimming with the memories of the chemical facility and the looming apocalypse, was also filled with a new, sharper recollection, the cruel, unthinking kicks from humans when he was just a kitten, small and defenseless, abused and tossed aside like garbage. The words, "you're kind," and the blatant disrespect were like sandpaper on an open wound. Before Marcus could even retort, before Maya could unleash a scathing verbal lashing, Jackie Cat moved. This time, it wasn't a tactical strike. It was pure, unadulterated, primal rage. He launched himself, a blur of fur and fury, right at the lead bigot's crotch. The man's scream was short-lived, replaced by a gurgling gasp as Jackie's claws, extended and gleaming, ripped through his jeans and into flesh, tearing upward with horrific efficiency. A fountain of blood and other fluids erupted, coating the sidewalk as the man buckled, his eyes rolling back in his head as he collapsed, convulsing, his life force literally draining onto the pavement. Jackie didn't stop. He vaulted off the first man, landing on the second's face with a sickening squelch. His claws raked downwards, flaying skin, exposing muscle and bone. The man's nose was gone, his jaw ripped open, his eyes replaced by bloody sockets as he staggered backwards, a grotesque, screaming mess. The third guy, horrified, tried to run, but Marcus, in a surge of adrenaline, tripped him. As he fell, Jackie was on him, a furry, bloody projectile. He clamped onto the man's neck with powerful jaws, not biting to kill, but to hold him down, while his paws, still razor-sharp, delivered a blindingly fast flurry of strikes to the man's chest. Each blow was precise, tearing through rib after rib, puncturing organs. The man choked, a death rattle escaping his throat as his chest cavity turned into a pulpy ruin, blood gushing with every dying breath. Once again, silence descended, broken only by the man's last, ragged breaths and the distant city hum. Jackie stood, panting slightly, his fur slick with more gore, his sunglasses still miraculously intact. Well, Marcus sighed, looking at the carnage, then at his blood-splattered shoes. At least we don't have to worry about them voting Republican anymore. They moved on, leaving the mess behind. As they walked, slightly shell-shocked but strangely invigorated by the shared violence, the conversations flowed. "You know," Marcus began, lighting a joint, "I grew up in a place where people like that tried to push you down every single day. Saw my old man work his off just to get spat on. You gotta fight back, or they'll just keep taking. He took a long drag. Lost my sister to the streets when she was just Leon's age. Never got to say goodbye. That's why I look out for my family, for my brethren. No one gets left behind." Maya, looking straight ahead, her voice flat, added, "My mother, she was a fighter. Taught me to stand my ground. But she also taught me that sometimes the only way to survive is to blend in. Keep your head down. I never liked that part." She paused. "Seen too much. Done too much. Leon here. He's the future. We gotta protect him from all this." Leon, still pale from the sheer brutality of Jackie's latest display, swallowed hard. "My dad, he was never really around. Mom raised me. It was rough. Always felt like I was dodging something. Guess I still am." He looked at Jackie. "But you're like nothing I've ever seen. You just do it. No hesitation." Jackie Cat listened, his own internal world churning. He felt a deep connection to their words. He remembered the feeling of small, helpless pause. The sharp, jolting pain. The indifferent, towering figures. The feeling of being less than, simply because he was different. He remembered the neglect, the hunger, the cold. He was just a kitten, abused and abandoned, left to fend for himself until some advanced genetic engineering, had transformed him. His past was a desolate, lonely place, filled with a deep, existential sadness. "I know that feeling," Jackie finally rasped, his voice raw. "Being treated like you're nothing. Like you're just some thing to be kicked around." His gaze hardened. "That's why I don't hesitate. You want to treat me like an animal? I'll show you a damn animal." The conversation shifted to lighter, albeit still darkly humorous, topics. They debated the merits of various snack chips and the best way to hide a futuristic arsenal. They stumbled into the grocery store, filling their carts with enough junk food and easy-to-prepare meals to last them a few days. They were a family forged in fire, blood, and a shared, profound understanding of the world's deep unfairness. The initial purpose of the bank robbery, to fuel Jackie's memory, had taken on a new, personal dimension. This wasn't just about saving the world anymore. It was about doing it together. Scene 10. mind-benders, and midnight rambles. The apartment, now smelling faintly of stale weed, cheap beer, and freshly laundered, but still slightly blood-stained, sweatpants, felt like a sanctuary. But for Jackie Cat, it was also a cage. He paced, a restless, furry whirlwind, the future guns gleaming ominously in the corner. His head throbbed with the effort of remembering, the mission still a frustratingly elusive phantom. "It's right there," he growled, clutching his head, his sunglasses askew. "I can almost taste it. The chemicals, the facility, the end of everything." Marcus, ever the unconventional problem solver, leaned back on the couch, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Yo, Bretta," he drawled, exhaling a plume of smoke.
Brethren.
"Sometimes, you gotta loosen the screws to tighten the bolts, you know? Maybe
Yeah.
you need a little mind expansion." He looked at Maya and Leon, who both nodded sagely.
Oh yeah, we're gonna
Got
go
some
on a
magic
trip
mushrooms
now.
stashed away. Or, for the truly adventurous, a tab of that good old white clinical grade LSD. Jackie Cat didn't hesitate. "Sure, why not?" he said, his voice laced with desperation. "I'm down for anything that'll kick this goddamn memory into gear. Give me a gram of those shrooms, and one of those tabs." Let's get weird. Within minutes, the apartment transformed. Marcus put on some booming reggae, the bass vibrating through the floorboards. Jackie swallowed the earthy mushrooms and placed the tiny tab under his tongue. The waiting began. As the music blared, Marcus and his companions, already in a relaxed state from the weed, started their usual banter. "Look at these stupid white people on TV," Marcus would cackle, pointing at a commercial,
Fucking white
then
people.
immediately turn to Maya, "And you old.
And I'm
You ain't
white."
much better with your damn church hymns." Maya would retort, "Shut your mouth, you overgrown Rastafarian." Leon, giggling, would chime in, "Yeah, Uncle Marcus, you're a dumbass." They called each other every foul name under the sun, hurled insults about their families and life choices, but it was all wrapped in a thick blanket of genuine affection and shared history. It was their love language, a brutal, vulgar symphony of friendship. Jackie Cat, initially just watching, felt a strange, uncontrollable giggle bubble up from his chest. He didn't know what was coming over him, but the sheer, ridiculous absurdity of their insults, the raw, unvarnished honesty of their affection, struck him as the funniest thing in the universe. It had to be the drugs. The room began to breathe, the colors shifting, the music swirling around him like a warm, liquid embrace. "Yo," Marcus said, noticing Jackie's sudden burst of uncontrollable laughter, his eyes wide and unfocused behind the sunglasses. "Those drugs are kicking in, man. You good, Bretta? You look like you just saw God doing the Macarena." Jackie could only nod, still giggling. "I'm really high," he managed, the words stretching out. The walls seemed to ripple, the jokes echoing in a kaleidoscope of sound. A sudden, overwhelming urge to move, to be outside, seized him. "We need to go for a walk," he declared, scrambling to his feet, a wobbly, furry astronaut. Marcus, Maya, and Leon exchanged knowing glances. They understood. Under the influence of mushrooms or LSD, staying indoors could quickly turn a good trip into a bad one, a descent into paranoia
right.
and claustrophobia.
Don't I know?
"All right, Bretta," Marcus said, nodding. "Fresh air it is. Get your head right." But before they ventured out into the swirling, psychedelic wilderness of the Toronto night, Marcus, ever the pragmatist, made a crucial stop. He walked over to the pile of future guns, his eyes scanning the alien weaponry. He picked up the smallest, sleekest handgun, a compact piece of advanced engineering that fit perfectly in his palm. "Just in case," he muttered, tucking it into his waistband. Might help Jackie remember things, too. With a shared sense of adventure and a healthy dose of drug-fueled anticipation, the four friends got ready to exit the apartment. Their destination, Morningside Park, a sprawling green oasis nearby. It was a place where very few troubles usually lurked, a quiet expanse of trees and trails. Except, perhaps, for the occasional crackhead begging for money. And if they ran into one of those, well, Jackie Cat had a very specific, very effective way of dealing with unwanted solicitations. A simple, straight clap to the face usually did the trick. As they stepped out into the night, the city lights seemed to pulse with a new, vibrant energy, and the air hummed with possibility. Jackie Cat, high as a kite, was ready for whatever the universe, or his fractured memory, threw at him next.
Now for our next commercial break.
Pop culture and psychedelic shifts. The night air of Toronto, surprisingly crisp for late '98, felt like a cool balm on Jackie Cat's rapidly expanding senses. Morningside Park was a dark, sprawling expanse of trees and trails, a pocket of manufactured wilderness amidst the urban sprawl. The streetlights from the distant roads cast long, dancing shadows, turning familiar bushes into vaguely menacing shapes. "So, what's got everyone's jimmies rustled these days, anyway?" Jackie asked, his voice echoing slightly as the mushrooms began their slow, insidious dance. He peered at a tree, watching its bark seem to ripple like static on an old TV. "Besides the impending global chemical cluster, that is." Marcus chuckled, lighting another joint. "Man, where to begin? Everyone's obsessed with Y2K. Think the damn computers are gonna melt down and send us back to the Stone Age. It's hilarious, all these old folks buying generators and canned beans." He passed the joint to Maya. "Then there's this new movie everyone's talking about, The Matrix. Supposed to be a real mind bender. Like, what if reality ain't even real, Bretta? What if we're all just living in some giant computer simulation?" Jackie snorted, a deep, rumbling sound that was oddly loud in the quiet park. "A computer simulation? Please. I've seen actual computer simulations. They're usually far less bloody and come with an undo button. Besides, if this was a simulation, who programmed the part where I ended up pantsless and had to beat up a bum for overalls? That's some shoddy coding right there." Maya took a drag from the joint, her face illuminated by the cherry, and looked at Jackie with a wry grin. "Tell me about it. We've got bigger fish to fry than whether or not Keanu Reeves is a god. Like, why the hell does a cat need to rob a bank to save the world? Seems like a rather circuitous route, my furry friend. It's about a safety deposit box, 917, Jackie explained, though the words felt floaty, disconnected. The trees were starting to breathe now, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers, tracing patterns against the sky. And something about a keyboard. It's a clue, a key, not the final answer, but the next step. My brain is like a corrupted hard drive right now, only pulling up fragmented files."
Fucking right.
Leon, usually quiet, suddenly piped up, his voice tinged with a nervous laugh. "So, you're saying like, you're the chosen one, right? Like Neo, but a cat. And instead of dodging bullets, you're just taking out eyeballs and making heads explode?" He shuddered slightly, a mixture of horror and admiration in his eyes. "Pretty much," Jackie agreed, feeling a wave of deep, cosmic understanding wash over him. "Except Neo probably didn't get abandoned in an alley as a kitten by some cruel, uncaring, who kicked him around like a goddamn soccer ball." The laughter died in his throat, replaced by a sudden, profound sadness that resonated with his earlier memory.
The LSD is kicking in.
"Didn't think I'd ever get over that. Still feels like a bruise right in my soul." Marcus put an arm around Jackie, a rare moment of tender affection. "Ah, Bretta, that's why you gotta hit back harder. Take all that hurt, all that rage, and point it at the people who deserve it. Like those racist pieces of, we just left in a puddle back there." "Yeah," Maya added, her voice soft. "Life's a rough go for most of us. You just gotta find your tribe. People who see you, even if you're a talking cat from the future. And then you ride or die with them." They walked in comfortable silence for a moment, the sounds of the park, crickets chirping, leaves rustling, the distant rumble of traffic, becoming clearer, more vibrant to Jackie's heightened senses. The ground felt soft, spongy under his paws, and he swore he could feel the earth breathing. Suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the deeper gloom of the trees. A gaunt, hollow-eyed figure shuffled towards them, his hand outstretched.
Oh no, not again.
A crackhead,
No, I don't
his
have any
voice a
cigarettes.
raspy whisper.
I don't have
"Hey,
any cigarettes. I don't
man,
have any
spare some change.
I need change.
Just
and
$1 for a
cigarettes."
brother, please?" Jackie's eyes, now glowing faintly in the dim light, narrowed behind his sunglasses. The drug had sharpened his focus, his senses, but also his disdain for weakness, for being exploited. "No," he said, his voice low and firm. The crackhead shuffled closer, insistent, his breath rank. "Come on, just a quarter. I'm starving, man." Before Marcus could even step in, Jackie Cat, with a swift, fluid motion, brought his open paw across the crackhead's face. It wasn't a clawed, head-exploding blow, but a sharp, resonant smack. The sound was like a thunderclap in the quiet park.
It was getting
The
bloody.
crackhead reeled, his head snapping back, and he stumbled backward, landing on his backside with a bewildered grunt. He stared at Jackie, then at the four figures, his eyes wide with a sudden, terrified comprehension, and scrambled away, disappearing into the darkness. Well, Jackie purred, rubbing his paw. That was efficient. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder, laughing. See? Better than money. You're a natural, Bretta. Now, how about we find a spot to properly enjoy this trip? We still got a world to save, and a bank to rob, but first, let's let these damn chemicals do their work. Jackie Cat looked up at the stars, which seemed to be swirling and pulsing with incredible, intricate patterns. The park was alive, breathing, whispering secrets. His purpose, his mission, felt closer now, just beyond the veil of his psychedelic experience. He still couldn't quite grasp the full picture, but he knew the next step was within reach. Scene 11. The Cosmic Revelation and the Fiery Leap. The four companions settled around the small, crackling fire in a secluded clearing of Morningside Park. The flames danced, casting flickering shadows that seemed to stretch and warp under the influence of the drugs already coursing through their systems. They leaned back, the cheap beer warm in their hands, gazing up at the vast, inky canvas of the late 90s sky, dotted with an impossible number of stars. For Jackie Cat, the world began to truly unravel and reform. The LSD, a tiny tab of synthesized reality bending, took hold with a vengeance. The stars above, at first pinpricks of light, began to blur, then stretch, then coalesce into swirling galaxies of color. Images, memories, flooded his mind in a dazzling, overwhelming torrent. He saw his maker, not just an entity, but a specific, beloved presence. His maker's name echoed through his psychedelic consciousness, Chris. And it wasn't just an evolved cat he was seeing. No, Jackie was much, much more. He saw the shimmering, complex DNA strands, the intricate genetic splicing. He wasn't simply a cat who had evolved over millennia. He was a carefully, brilliantly engineered being. He was genetically combined with multiple human and strength-worthy animal DNA, all while maintaining his core feline form. He was designed for purpose, for power. He had the strength, the agility, the sheer physical prowess to rival Captain America, a thought that made his tiny brain explode with a surge of cosmic energy. As the kaleidoscopic stars swirled faster, Jackie's visions sharpened, focusing on the future. He saw them, the architects of destruction, the ones who had started it all, the ones who had nearly wiped out humanity. Ing, he growled, a low, guttural sound. Quote, Mother, Ing, they were the ones running the whole show in the future, the architects of the impending chemical catastrophe. Then, a face, a warm, loving face. His father, the human one, the one who had loved him the most. Chris, don't forget your mission. Chris's voice resonated through Jackie's trip, calm and clear amidst the chaos. I know you can do this. You're the only one. Images flashed in rapid succession. The future, a desolate, poisoned wasteland. The past, this very moment, where the seeds of destruction lay, and everyone who could get in his way. He saw the key points, the critical moments, the precise steps he needed to take to complete his mission. His little cute brain, under the influence, was processing data at light speed, connecting every dot of his forgotten purpose. Jackie's eyes twitched rapidly behind his sunglasses, his small body tensing, occasionally vibrating with suppressed energy. Marcus, Maya, and Leon watched him, their own high a more gentle, communal haze. They knew instinctively. Don't touch him, Marcus whispered, holding a hand up to Maya, who looked concerned. Don't startle him. Let him remember. Suddenly, with a startling burst of energy, Jackie leapt up from his trance. He soared into the sky, a tiny, feline projectile against the swirling, psychedelic canvas of the stars. He arced impossibly high, a true leap of faith and pharmaceuticals. As he began to fall back to the ground, still dazed and high as a kite, stoned as some hippie from the 60s, he miscalculated slightly. He landed with a soft thump directly in the campfire for a quick second, his fur singeing with a faint crackle. Yow! Jackie yelped, leaping out of the flames in a blur, shaking his paws. A wisp of smoke curled from his singed mustache. Marcus burst into laughter, a loud, booming sound that made the trees seem to dance. Leon snickered, and even Maya let out a rare, hearty laugh. You all right, Bretta? Marcus roared, wiping a tear of mirth from his eye. "Look like you tried to turn yourself into a roasted marshmallow." Jackie, initially offended by their mirth, paused. He was a professional. He was an adult. And frankly, it was pretty damn funny. A chuckle rumbled in his chest, and soon he was laughing along with them, a small, slightly singed beacon of joy amidst the trippy night. As the laughter subsided, Jackie collected his thoughts, the vivid images of his mission now sharply imprinted in his mind. He didn't need to tell them everything just yet. The full, intricate details could wait for the morning. For now, they could just enjoy the buzz. They spent the rest of the night drinking their beer and smoking their weed, lost in shared moments of hazy contentment and dark humor. They eventually made their way home safely, weaving through the park, Marcus having to slap the next crackhead who dared to ask for change, a quick, efficient blow that sent the man sprawling. Back in the apartment, they collapsed into their beds, the weight of the day, the drugs, and the looming mission finally catching up to them. The next day was ahead of them. The big day, the day the fate of the world would truly begin to unfold. Scene 12. Beats, Brotherhood, and Breakthroughs. The morning sun, filtered through grimy apartment windows, brought with it the dull throb of hangovers. Jackie Cat, surprisingly spry for someone who'd communed with cosmic consciousness and then almost lit himself on fire, was meticulously preparing scrambled eggs. The aroma filled the small kitchen, a stark contrast to the usual scent of stale beer and desperation. Marcus, Maya, and Leon, bleary-eyed and disheveled, grabbed whatever hell they could find to eat, cold pizza, dry cereal, while Jackie portioned out a can of tuna for himself, a connoisseur of fine feline dining. As he munched on his eggs and tuna, a new flash surged through Jackie's mind, clearer than before. "A place. A person. I know one place we can get some help," he declared, startling Leon, who nearly dropped his cereal. "For some reason, we have to go to Yellow's. I think there's a keyboard there. I think it might help me remember more." Marcus, mid-yawn, blinked. "Yellow? As in, Yellow Man the Wicked Beats Maker." He snapped his fingers. "Yo, I know a guy named Yellow. He's a damn wizard with a keyboard, makes beats that'll make your soul vibrate. Let's go check his place. I'll give him a call right now." A quick phone call later, and the plan was set. For the first time since Jackie's arrival, they were actually getting in a car. Marcus's beat-up sedan, an old Honda Civic, rumbled to life. The drive was mercifully uneventful. No accidental vehicular crackhead incidents, much to Jackie's, and perhaps everyone else's, relief. They arrived at Yellow's place, a slightly less dilapidated apartment building than Marcus's, but clearly still part of the same urban tapestry. Yellow himself, a lanky man with an infectious, welcoming smile, greeted them at the door. His apartment was a vibrant explosion of sound equipment, turntables, mixers, towering speakers, and at the heart of it all, a formidable array of keyboards and synthesizers. "Yo, Marcus, good to see you, Bretta," Yellow greeted, his eyes widening slightly as he took in the sight of Jackie Cat. He didn't blink, didn't question. Just a casual, "And who's your furry friend here? Looks like he's ready to drop some rhymes." Marcus chuckled, gesturing towards Jackie. "This here's Jackie. He's special. And he needs a beat. A special kind of beat." Jackie Cat and his friends laid down the whole outlandish scene for Yellow. The time travel, the forgotten mission, the chemicals, the bank robbery, the exploding heads. Yellow listened, his eyes wide, occasionally nodding. When they finished, he stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Heavy, man. Real heavy. But if music unlocks memories, then we need to make a beat. A powerful one. Maybe that will help you remember." And so, they did. The apartment transformed into a makeshift studio. Marcus grabbed the mic, dropping improvisational rhymes about street life and survival. Maya, surprisingly, laid down some soulful backing vocals, her voice a deep, resonant counterpoint. Leon, still a bit shy, handled the scratch effects on the turntables, his nervousness melting away in the creative energy. Jackie Cat, however, found himself drawn to a particular keyboard. His paws hovered over the keys, guided by an instinctual rhythm. He hammered out intricate drum patterns, layered them with dark, atmospheric melodies, pulling sounds from somewhere deep within his reawakening mind. It was 90s hip-hop at its grittiest, but infused with something else, a futuristic echo, a subtle, complex rhythm that felt both alien and intensely familiar. He was channeling his own past, his future, his maker, Chris, into the music. As his paws danced across the keys, a pattern formed. A series of notes, a specific sequence. And then, like a lightning bolt, it hit him. A password. It wasn't just a pattern, it was the password. He remembered it, sharp and clear. He kept it to himself for now, a potent secret. They worked through the afternoon, the air thick with creativity, weed smoke, and the camaraderie of shared purpose. They finished the mix, an amazing piece of art, a raw, vibrant blend of the past and the future. As dusk settled, the crew, now thoroughly high and delightfully drunk, decided to call it a night. They drove back home, the bass from the freshly mixed track still thrumming in their bones. Nobody asked Jackie any questions about the password or the specific memories. They simply accepted that he was closer to his truth. Jackie knew it. The next morning, they'd need more people. The pieces were falling into place. The bank robbery wasn't just a grab for clues. It was the start of the final push.
Booyah! Alright. Now,